Hi everybody, my name is Sarah, Pearls of Wisdom and Food with Keto Under 20. Just another day in the life of, and I love it. I've got my food tracked for the day, and I'm starting to put in for food over the weekend. I know what I'm going to have. Sunday is the big green egg day, and we're having Greg's son and daughter, or girlfriend, for big green egg cooking, which means steak. They'll have Yukon potatoes, and I'll have my Brussels sprouts, cauli crumbles, and grilled asparagus, and my grass-fed beef. I love it. So today is, I found some no nitrite, no nitrate chorizo. Some people say chorizo, but we, I guess here, close to the Portuguese population, say chorizo, with 2 fried eggs on top of it and 1 ounce of raw cheddar cheese melted on top of that. That's my breakfast, my first meal, my dinner, and that's usually around 12 to 1, and my dinner will be 4 ounces of grass-fed filet mignon on a salad of organic romaine, 10 grams of blue cheese, 1 tablespoon evu, 5 asparagus, and 30 grams of raw organic cabbage, red, chopped up in it as well. And that is a meal that just suits me just fine, thank you very much. So I've been listening to a lady that doesn't stop at the surface. She scratches far, far below and dives into what's really in our food. And she's fascinating, and of course that's opened up a whole new world of things that I love to watch and learn about. And she was talking about rosemary extract, and isn't that a pretty sounding name? Rosemary extract. Well, what it is it's BHA and BHT. Do you remember? Those were 2 of the first ingredients that I remember in my long ago brain of ingredients that I avoided in things. I think it was in bacon. And so if you see rosemary extract in your bacon, even in your uncured bacon, put it back. Know that it's got BHA and BHT, prettily disguised. And that's what the nutrition food industry, not the healthy one, but the labeling deception one, that's what they want you to think. Oh, rosemary, that sounds natural enough. Well, it's not. And so, in fact, when I began to read about it, some women in the old days, or maybe in other cultures, take it to cause abortions. So, yeah. So they're at it. They're at it with us. And she also talked a lot about fortified cereals and fortified breads. And what that means is they're adding chemicals to those things. Some of them are very toxic, very poisonous. And how many of us as mothers and grandmothers, fathers and grandfathers might have fed a bowl of cereal to our kids, our grandkids, along with ourselves, thinking, fortified. Thank you, Kellogg's. Now I don't have to take a multivitamin because you fortified my cereal. Chemical poisons. But most of you aren't having wheat still, are you? And when she talked about gluten-free, she was kind of funny. She went into a health foods section of her store and took pictures of 2 items, gluten-free crackers and gluten-free cookies, and then began to read the ingredients and decipher them for us because she's in the know. But she had a tip for me that I found very interesting, and I guess if I was anal and just beginning this whole changing my whole food and life of way of eating, I would partake in it. But she said for 52 weeks, change 1 item in your pantry. And she says, let's take salt. She said, are you still buying the salt with the lady with the umbrella with the iodine. And she talked about, changing up your salt. And there's tons of salts you can choose from. Some have iodine and some don't. They say that iodine is good for the thyroid and other areas, especially for women. And so, she said, just change that. She said it would be too overwhelming to just clean out your shelves of everything and start anew, especially when you don't even know what you know. You don't even know what you don't know. And so it's enough. Just think of how some people just buy the store-bought eggs for like 89 cents a dozen. And then they're told, you might want to upgrade what kind of eggs you're buying. And so for some it's organic. And then it's like, well, are they range-free? And it's like, well, I don't know. And then they say, well, how many square feet do they allow each hen to have before they go in and sit on their nest and lay an egg? And are they eating buggies that haven't been sprayed with pesticides and grass that hasn't been sprayed with Roundup to produce a healthy egg? Remember, we're eating what we're eating ate before us, which is, I think if we probably saw a feedlot of animals not only being tortured, but what they're being fed, we wouldn't buy anything but grass-fed ever again. And I admit, at times, I do not buy grass-fed because the item I'm looking for is not available. So, I'd love to, I could live on burger, I guess, 7 days a week and buy grass-fed, or the same with the steaks, but every now and then there's a recipe that calls for something that I can't find grass-fed anywhere, and the days of the butcher are long gone. So, another thing she was talking about were dates. Dates, a seemingly innocent thing, especially if you're on paleo. You might be having dates. I don't have them on my keto. One date wouldn't fit in my spending of 20, for sure. But what they do is dates grow from being pollinated with pollen. But what do they use to make the pollen stick and make baby dates? Wheat. Did you know that? So when people that have serious health issues like celiac disease eat a date, that could throw them into whatever it is that happens, which is not pleasant, because the date was sprayed with wheat. And it doesn't have to be noted on the package. Did you know that? And also, when they do something to a food in the processing, they do not have to disclose it on the box. So when you buy that great big old box of Truvia at Costco, at BJ's, any one of the Sam's, any one of those places, and you think you're getting a relatively pure stevia product, just know that it has been processed dozens of ways to Sunday. You don't think that stevia leaf started off as a white powder or overnight became a white powder. They do so much processing to it that it is really no different. So many chemical processes, like bleach, that it is just like the yellow, pink, and blue packets. What are safe sweeteners? Xylitol, Xyla, stevia. Stevia liquid, not stevia in the raw, not stevia powder. It would have to be the drops. So you really have to become your own scientist if you choose. If you don't choose to know that much and go la 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 la, then that's okay too, because you're on your journey, on your road, and you might end up learning about these things and stopping them when you're ready. She was also talking about she has this friend and they are swimming mates, and so he is a physician in an emergency care unit, and he has all kinds of issues. And so she gave him Dr. Terry Wall's protocol book, and Terry Walls was in a wheelchair for I don't know how long, but she can walk again because she changed her food. And so she thought this would be a great way for him to have his aha moments. And being a doctor, an MD, she has enough initials after her name that he wouldn't feel that, she wasn't his caliber, right? because she had to be gentle with the educational ego. And so she gave him the book, and it took him a long, long time to just get to page 70. And he said, I'm not giving up something. I couldn't hear the tape faded out. And he said, I'm not giving up something, something. And she's like, well, okay, hoping the seed was planted, if you know what I mean. And then, so a while later, she kind of breached the subject, and he was on page 140, and he said, I'm not giving up ice cream. And she said, well, okay. And he had one hip replaced. He needed the other hip replaced, but the first hip replacement was making him limp, and he said, just faulty engineering. It's not anything that I'm eating. And so she's like, okay. And this is her best buddy. I mean, this is her swim mate, where they, exchange tons of things, and he was becoming so debilitated from his hip that he couldn't even join the people that swam together for coffee after. I guess that was part of their like little routine. And just kind of fascinating, and how he chose to be in denial, even though she was trying to lead that stubborn horse to water. But he wasn't drinking from it. He wasn't drinking. So that's how we are until we aren't. And for me, I know that once I know better, I do better. And so, of course, the biggest wall of resistance is being able to afford organic. And so, and I understand that. So looking for the next best grade of food is important. Now at Stop and Shop, they have the grass-fed, and then they have a couple of other, like I guess, sometimes it's Prime, sometimes it's something else. So I'm assuming that it has to do with how the cattle are raised and harvested at the slaughterhouse. And there must be a difference. And if I ever found a friendly butcher that I could ask what the difference is between the prime meat and the something something and the something something versus the grass-fed, it would be fascinating to learn. But they might not know. I mean, when they get their meat that they put into those cellophane packages of the vac packs, it's not like they went to, grades of beef school 1, 2, 3. They just know what they're supposed to, they're going from the guy that's been the butcher at Stop and Shop for 30 years, teaching the guy that's new to Stop and Shop for the last 2 years that's finally at a level of skill where he can work side by side. So it's all very fascinating how deep you want to go. And if you dare, right? It's because kind of like I don't really know if I want to know. We all have non-negotiables. Trust me, I do. I was addicted to Coffee Mate. I was addicted to my bowl of cereal in the morning. I was addicted to my gums. Sure, I was addicted to cigarettes and alcohol too. So there's, and then so I wasn't ready to give up things until I was ready to give up things. And it's, I was addicted to wheat, definitely addicted to my wheat, my cereal in the morning, my little 100-calorie wraps and thin things, those flats and all that kind of stuff. Addicted to deli meat. God knows where that came from. I do find it interesting that Oscar Mayer is taking nitrites and nitrates out of certain foods, namely hot dogs, which is kind of interesting because isn't that the staple of every little kid? And so it's just fascinating what's going on there. The deception with the labeling is just getting better. And so I try to bring you what I'm learning. It goes into my ears and comes out my mouth. Who knows what I'll hear that I will regurgitate. But when you know better, you will eat better. And it's a choice. It is a choice. And so that is it from me. Just my philosophy and way of doing it and gathering better habits as I go along. And I hope you do too. Don't forget to track. Thanks so much for watching. This has been Sarah, Pearls of Wisdom and Food, or Weigh and Measure. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye for now.